Well, let's rev up the engine. First teaser trailer for Furiosa is out, so we're going to take a look at that in a minute. Before we see it, though, a couple of things up front. I love Fury Road. I think that is a phenomenal movie. I know that they have been working on a Furiosa prequel for some time. I know it does not star Charlize Theron. The only reason I'm interested in this at all is because George Miller is directing it. He's directed all the Mad Max movies. They have not all been good, but Fury Road was a freaking masterpiece. So I like Furiosa a lot as a character. I'm inherently nervous about prequels, especially because we know the situation she's going to have to end up in at the end. So how this is going to wrap up in a satisfying way, I don't know, but we won't be able to tell that from the trailer. So let's go by what we can see and we can tell. Let's do this.
Whatever you have to do.
Well, we haven't seen a lot of motorcycles.
Promise me you'll find your way home.
Okay.
Furiosa. Give me this promise.
He's doing his center framing that he loves to do so much. Yep. I remember her backstory. So, like, is she going to be captured by Joe right off, or is that, like, going to be where it ends? Because the overall implication from the previous movie was she was just taken by Joe or sold to Joe or whatever. All right.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Oh, that's Chris Hemsworth.
your engines.
Looks a little CGI, which I don't know. Oh, younger Joe. That's weird. I know Anya Taylor-Joy. I actually don't think I've seen her in actually, now that I think about it. Well, it's pretty. Absolutely give it that right off the bat. And it's George Miller, for sure. Oh, God! They gave him a Thor cape. That's gotta be it.
The question is, do you have it in you to make it epic?
All right. I mean, this is mostly... I mean, I didn't forget her before. I got a commissioned piece of art of Furio's over on the wall right over there. So I think seeing that waylaid some of my fears in that I needed the reminder, you don't tune into a Mad Max film for the story. That's not to say that they don't have good stories, but what they have much better than story is visual spectacle, theming, and characters. Actual plot, it's not the focus or the strong suit of these things. So sort of seeing it and getting a little bit wrapped up in the visual presentation of it, I'm kind of being reminded, right, don't get hung up about how the story is going to pan out. The story was not what you loved about Fury Road. The story worked. It was functional. Got the job done. I imagine this will probably do the same. Anya Taylor-Joy, like, I know the name. I know her face. I'm drawing a blank on whether I've actually ever seen anything with her in it. I mean, I probably have, and I'm just flaking at the moment. I actually don't know what I think of her as an actress. It was legitimately weird seeing like a young Immortan, like the very concept somehow young Immortan Joe just feels wrong. And Honestly, I'm a little bit surprised they did that. Like, I know, I do believe that the actor who played him, has passed away, so I know they couldn't get him back, but, like, I would have think you'd go with someone closer to what his age was and just kinda emphasize the fact that the dude was just a mess and had been for ages, as opposed to like, oh, here he is younger. Like, I don't know. Like, in my mind, he was kind of in the physical shape he was in when we saw him in Fury Road for like 50 years. But that's sort of my mental concept of him. I don't know. It just struck me as odd. Chris Hemsworth, and being super unclear as to whether he's a good guy, a bad guy, or neither. That, I like that. Because one of the interesting things about Fury Road is, for the most part, I think really only with the exception of Nux, Fury Road had a much cleaner presentation, like from the get-go, of who the good guys were, who the bad guys were. Mad Max in general tends to muddy that line a little bit more than Fury Road did. I mean, like, there's the question of like how good a guy is Max, but he's still the lens through which we're seeing this regardless. So like we have an inclination towards favoring and liking him just inherently. But you know, there's a fair bit of history of Mad Max where like he helps some people out and they screw him over anyway, not because they're bad people, but because this is post-apocalypse and this is what you do to survive out here. So I kind of like that I can't tell right now where Chris Hemsworth falls on that, and I kind of like that for him. I did immediately think Thor, like in that chariot thing with a cape. I noted the center framing, which was a very big thing, especially in Fury Road. It was a big part of how George Miller was able, you know, with all the cutting and all the action going on, able to keep it comprehensible, was to have the main thing be center of the screen. So whenever there was a cut, you didn't have to reorientate and try and figure out where on the screen you were supposed to be looking. So there's a fair bit of that here, which it was a strong visual signifier there. It makes sense to keep it. I'm more aware of it now. Like, I didn't notice it immediately first time watching Fury Road, but then I had to point it out, like, what it was doing. I'm like, oh, very cool. So now, like, I've kind of seen behind the curtain now. But that doesn't make it any less potentially effective. Honestly, this, I don't want to get over pumped for it, because I'm definitely not going to assume that I'm going to like it as well as Fury Road, because that's a level of hope that just leads to disappointment. But overall, this might be the movie I'm most excited for in like the next year or so. Movies have not been doing much for me lately. And I know 2023 has just kind of been a bad year for movies. Just has not been great. Like when I get around to like my top 10 pieces of entertainment for the year, this won't be the first time I've done this, but like I absolutely would have had to have opened it up to more than I used to just do top 10 movies. I don't do that. I didn't do that last year either. And I definitely couldn't do it this year. Just so much stuff out in the theaters I just had no interest in. Like, I skipped most of it. Anyways, I think I might actually go out of my way to go to the theater to see this. I went to the theater for so few things this year. I might go out of my way to go to this, though. Yeah. Yeah. I like the look of it. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, yeah, I could do with a dose of that. Furiosa, first trailer. What'd you think about this? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon pays the bills and enables me to do this as my living, especially considering that this is a trailer. WB owns it, and it's almost certainly going to be demonetized. So any help you can give me there is especially helpful. But even if you can't, like, share, subscribe. They all help me out. Don't worry too much about it, though. We take a relaxed attitude around here. So just come on back next time you need a break. Time to thank some patrons, and this time I'm going to say their names as if I'm greeting them, welcoming them to a party. Robin Moore, Zuman Lopfula, Goddess Elida, Turok, the thing that goes doink in the anime, Ruth, Gozer the Gozerian, Oliver B, Solitary Pictures, Ulrich Bogdan, Melinda Walters, Jen, Auntie Kate 808, Becky Sparks, Phenomenalax the Poodle, Robin Powell, T Love, Tracy Scrabbit, Angry Casperl, Dave Hall, Rosalind Bennett. Have fun tonight, and thank you for your support. I don't know why I decided to do that this time, but I don't know. I'm having fun.